promises to be packed, promises to be very insightful. The panelists that have been put together for this panel session are expected to bring insights to the fore as regards how can we really harness the potential in Nigeria's youthful population. This is a virtual session. I'll just go ahead to introduce our panelists for this session. I hope we have all of them online and they have joined us online now. I'll just go ahead to start the introductions. I'll start first with the Minister of Youth, who is also part of this panel, Dr. Jamila Bio Ibrahim. She is expected, of course, to bring in the government perspective. What is government doing to see that the young people really drive economic development in Nigeria? With 54% of Nigeria's population being under 20, how can we really harness these numbers and really give these numbers into a human face and make the youth start to feel like, of course, they are part of economic development in the country? Also part of our panel is Bright Jaja. He is the CEO and founder of I Create Africa and Skillers Pro Limited, and he will be sharing his perspective especially on how we can tap also into the informal economy, how they can also be incorporated to drive economic development. There's been a whole lot of conversations around how what happens in the informal economy is often left out. So how can we ensure that that crucial part is no longer left out? He will be sharing insights on this on the discussion today. We also have, as part of the panel, the MD CEO of the Anambra State Investment Promotion Company, Dr. Apera. Dr. Apera would also be speaking to some of the issues around entrepreneurship, public-private partnerships, and the subnational levels, which is very important because a lot of talk happen around what's happening at the federal. What really happens at the state level? How can youths at the state level also be brought into the picture and also be drivers of economic development in Nigeria? And we have Shola Osinubi also, the Nigeria Country Director of Andela. She would also be bringing her wealth of experience, especially in the tech sector. There's been a whole lot of talk around the Japa syndrome that has been happening in Nigeria, which has led to significant brain drain in the country. Nigeria losing talent. How can we retain this talent? Shola will be speaking especially on the working with Andela. How can some of the initiatives, some of the strategies that have worked, how can we also incorporate these in a broader level to drive economic development with this demography that we are looking at? Thank you all for joining this virtual session. Thank you, our panelists, for joining. And without further ado, we'll just get into it. I would just like our panelists to first give a background, youth-driven economic development, and really what is an economic development that is driven by young people? What does this mean? What does this mean to you when you really hear of young people driving the economic development in Nigeria? I'll start with the Minister of Youth. Please, let's have her come up.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon I'm sorry, I was on the phone with Grace, so I didn't quite catch the moderator's name. I was trying to coordinate with Grace at the time you introduced yourself. My sincere apologies, and permit me to call you Madam Moderator. So good afternoon, Madam Moderator. Good afternoon to my co-panelists, and a good afternoon to the other participants. Well, first of all, I'll begin by defining what economic development means. Then I would now walk us through, youth development as from the government perspective. Economic development simply refers to the transformation of an economy from one with limited resources and choices for people to one with more abundant resources and options. So therefore, therefore, economic development driven by young people should be one where young people take charge of driving this transformation that we hope to see. And from the government perspective, we are really just focused on creating opportunities. Like, the Ministry of Youth Development is a new ministry that was created by the administration of His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, this year on assumption of office. And I happen to be the first minister to occupy that position in the administration. So it's, well, the second, but the first female, and most likely the youngest. And it's a privilege to be here. So for us, from the government perspective, we would like to focus on creation of opportunities for young people, and of course, collaborating with the private sector by creating incentives for young people. But we have three pillars that we hope to focus on, which is to empower young people, educate them, and to engage young people. So it is when we engage young people, we're able to apply a bottom-up approach, listening to their challenges, and of course, preferring solutions or creating opportunities through government, and then through government policies, either directly through government or through government policies. And then, of course, working with the private sector, civil society, and then international organizations, could be development partners or even uh, private organizations, international private organizations. Um, well, we are aware of as well of the youth demography in Nigeria being about 70% of Nigeria's population, young, creative, and innovative young Nigerians with so much potential. And we actually look forward to harnessing that potential. Well, having mentioned education as a catalyst, as one of our pillars, and youth engagement for economic activities in various sectors, name it agriculture, and then we have Mr. Bright Jaja, who is very big on skills, and actually look forward to a project with him in the near future. So I'm glad that I've been called to serve in a space that I'm familiar with, and I this to some extent, with every sense of humility, I hope to leverage on my network to make that transformation happen. But I also call on the Nigerian youth to be a little patient with us as a government, because we must put in place structures that would enable our policies to be properly implemented. And I want to assure you that there's so many there are numerous opportunities out there, and I hope that as we go along, we'll be able to, as the discussions advance, we'll be able to engage, and then, I'll be able to shed more light on some of these proposed um, uh, initiatives. But I also want us to bear in mind that it might be a bit too early to make policy statements, like, because first, we must engage young people, hear from them, and then it feeds into our projected, development plan and all of that. So I believe it will be too early, and we might not be speaking from a sincere point of view, from a sincere standpoint as government, if we rush to make robust policy statements. I'm just a week in office. I would like to actually, I would like um, I do not want to be, move faster than my shadow, or try to impress people by making ambiguous statements. But we must make decisions and make we must make statements that are guided by data, and of course other scientific evidences, in order to be successful in our implementation. Having said that, we also hope that we're able to create more opportunities for young people to participate in politics leadership, and of course, high-level decision-making, because we have two, not just one, we have two representatives at the highest decision-making level of government, which is the Federal Executive Council. So I've been advocating since I assumed office. As a matter of fact, since my first day in office, I've been advocating for a declaration of the national youth quota at high level decision making tables. Yes, we know that we are 70% of the population. So even if we ask for a quota at the level of perhaps employment and all of that, we already have so many young people being employed. But who is making decisions for us? Who is speaking for us at those high level engagements, high level, those rooms where young people traditionally do not have access to? We need to be able to create opportunities for young people to actually, have voices at those tables and be able to speak for us at the highest levels of government. So, and I do not want to take us to take all the shine. I would leave the floor for other panelists to also speak. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, the Minister of Youth. They're giving her perspective. And I really like the fact that she spoke about giving youth voices and really bringing the young people to the table, because then again, making policies or putting policies in place, it's important for those that the policies will really affect to be in the front line, to be at the table when these decisions are being made. That being said, I'll just move to Bright Jaja. The minister mentioned collaboration with you in the future, and that's like an express ticket for me. She practically said she's looking forward to collaborate with you on different things to do to ensure that there is inclusion for young people. I would just want to get your thoughts, your opening statements on what we are talking about today, young people driving economic development.
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to congratulate my sister, Her Excellency, Dr. Domina, for the recent appointment. I've never been more hopeful. I've been in Nigeria for a long time. I'll probably say my entire life, 33 years. And one of the things, I was watching a flashback from Snapchat today. And I think it was yesterday, 6 years ago, I woke up at 5 a.m. and I was walking out, and I was just praying. I was just praying for Nigeria. Like literally, I recorded me just saying a prayer for Nigeria. I'm gonna post it on my Instagram later today. This is just out of the passion and the love that I have for my country. And I feel like that is one thing that's missing when it comes to the thing that can drive us to where we need to be. I think one of the biggest problems that we have, I'm going to talk about the problem if I talk about the solution, is the fact that the approach in which, whether it's the government or development agency, the approach in which we try to solve youth unemployment is from a charity perspective. And that's what the problem is. When you want to do charity, you're not expecting anything. And so you're just giving, and whatever happens, happens. But if every organization treats their business as charity, they will not be profit making, right? I think we need to switch from seeing young people as a charity case where they will say, oh, we empowered 500 young people, we give them sewing machines, and we give them foodstuff, and we give them, tools and equipment. We train them in skills. And there's Empower, and there's You Win, and there's all of these programs, and it's to empower young people. I think if we keep seeing it from that perspective, we will never get anywhere. I think the first step is we need to see young people as an asset. We're an asset. It means we are worth investing. Like, put your money in us with the sense of getting a return of investment. When you approach us from that perspective, everything changes, because then you're more strategic about the kind of investment that you do. You make data-driven decisions. You look at the problem holistically. How do we live in a country where 60% or 70% of young people are employed in the informal sector, where 60% of the GDP is from the informal sector, where we lose, as Africans, we lose $55 billion every year to the informalities within the informal sector, to the lack of productivity within the informal sector. How do we, at the end of the day, graduate 600,000 students every year from universities, but not up to 10% get jobs because everything that you've trained them in is not available in the workspace, it's not available in reality. How many people, how many lawyers do we need? How many doctors do we need? Right? And so we find out that we're investing more in a reality that doesn't give us the kind of outcome that we want. And I know that this began from, I mean, our colonial masters, they left us a script and we'll be living within that script. And so for me, it's how do we change this? How do we create an environment that literally identify what is really needed within the system and train young people with the skills to solve that problem, that specific problem. And that's what we've been doing for the past 6 years. We saw the problem. We did our proper research to understand why is it that we have 70% of young people unemployed on the streets doing nothing. These are healthy, smart, intelligent, talented, skilled people. And this is because we have devalued the one thing that could give us the kind of leverage that we need to be able to move the economy forward, which is the informal sector, which is trade, which is service, right? You have 200 million people. These 200 million people make their hair, they wear clothes, they drive cars, they live in houses. Just focusing on empowering people formally with the skills that is required for them to be able to turn all of these problems into solutions and build businesses out of it is what we're lacking. And so one of the beautiful things about this for me, and one of the reasons why I was so excited about this conversation, is because I am positive and I'm expectant that this current government would take this more seriously, would leave the ideology of what has existed and try something different, try something new, something unique, something that can actually work. And this begins with identifying young people who have already designed systems and these systems have worked. They need to identify these people, bring these young people together and see how they can leverage on their ideas and expand on these ideas to be able to reach more people. Because the solution that we need for this project is already within the shores. Every single idea, every single project that needs to be executed, it's already, somebody's already doing it. We need to identify who those people are and bring them close and see how we can work together with them to execute and make sure that every young person has an opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Bright Jaja, speaking about the value that is really inherent in the informal sector of Nigeria. And what he has said is very cogent, because looking within our network, I know somebody that finished tertiary education and probably decided that, oh, I'll start a fashion business, I'll start a makeup business, I'll build my own product, I would be an entrepreneur. Some are even serial entrepreneurs, harnessing the skills they have to be able to really make ends meet. And you spoke about approach, which brings me now to Dr. Apera, who is a young person that has really made strides. And also, as the MD CEO of the Anambra State Investment Promotion and Protection Agency, I know you have a lot of entrepreneurs that you have worked with under your grasp. So looking at driving the economy, the youth driving the economy now, what approach do you think is really cogent for us to begin to look outside the handouts, the apply to get this fund, the apply to be eligible to get this from government? What really is the approach that can work?
Thank you very much, everyone, and nice to meet you all. I think, first of all, I'd like to change, correct, my name is not Dr. Apera, my name is Mark Okoye. So I'm not sure where that name was from. But I think, let me start, first of all, by congratulating the Honorable Minister, Dr. Jamila. I think, can you hear me, or can anybody hear me? Because the screens keep moving. Okay, excellent. So I want to congratulate the Honorable Minister. I think her appointment and that of another 2 young people under 40 is a manifesto item on the President's youth agenda, when he said I will appoint 3 people into the Federal Executive Council. And many a times, addressing youth unemployment, addressing issues that concern that segment of the population one of the easiest ways is just ensuring that they are in the room when the key policies are being discussed. So in my view, the mere fact that we have 3 people who are under 40 deliberating with the president and all other cabinet ministers every Monday to discuss matters of urgent importance for the country is a big, big step in the right direction. I think the second point I also wanted to make, because I think it's been fascinating contributions from a lot of my colleagues. The second point I wanted to make, which I think the minister had touched on, was where she said about the policies that because they're still in that policy formulation aspect, so they are not, they aren't pinpointing certain policies that will be done. But from my experience, one thing at least I can draw from my experience, having been in cabinet for the last 12 years in Anambra State, the second the president or the governor has a manifesto, and that manifesto makes certain promises that he's made to the people. One way of getting those things implemented immediately you come in is by challenging them and taking that promise and announcing it to the world. I think the president announced his 10 million youth program, so that's a big one. I can see how you and Boso are already implementing that. And there's all these other things, the reform of NYSC, to make it focused on entrepreneurship and skills, all of these different things. I think we take the challenge and take it to the president's doorstep. That's how you get your 150 billion for next year's budget, and we'll be there to support you from our different states. But my view is, in terms of economic development, I think one very easy thing that we can see, I think that there's a mismatch. And I think the mismatch stems from, you look at the sectors that get all the support, the segments of the population that typically get support. If you disaggregate all the support that came from the power intervention funds, the SME development funds, you'll find out that only under 5% maybe came to young people under 40 who are actually doing things that were material. But on the flip side, where is Nigeria getting FDI? In the last 3-4 years, FDI has come from the startups, the tech ecosystems. Who are the people driving the tech ecosystem? It's young people. So for me, I think that we have all the solutions in front of us. We have all the gaps that we ought to fill. It's almost like these young people have given us the expo for government to just come at state level, subnational and national level, and come up with programs and invest heavily in them. I think youth matters and matters concerning skills development, entrepreneurship, the same way we look at the world infrastructure problem and we stress about finding these $2 to $3 trillion of funding to fill the infrastructure deficit gap. I think that's the same way we should be speaking to youth matters and issues around impacting and intervening in their lives and their skills and creating those opportunities for them. To wrap it up, I think, because I know that we're going to have quite an exhaustive conversation, but from my own end and sort of what I've seen that we have sustainability issues. You look at sort of what is happening in the tech ecosystem, right, where a lot of their funding is coming from international institutional investors. So the second things dry up on that end, you then start seeing the ripple effect in tech companies and startups folding up, retrenchments, etc. So I think that there's a role for government and the local private sector to create a sustainable model that can address this. So when we say we are creating funding, the venture capital firms do not have to be in dollars. These young men and women who are getting the funding don't have to have that pressure of receiving $1 million as their pre-seed and then hiring people for $2,000, $3,000. That's where you get all these different mismatches. So my view is there must be locally made, tailor-made solutions where Nigerians can also create venture capital funds that are backed with Naira, that can fund startups that are based in Nigeria, that can also spend in Naira and then generate their revenue in Naira. That then insulates us a bit from what is going on around the world. So I think that's, and how are we doing it in Anambra State? I think we are working with a number of VCs, trying to see how we can create a fund. We're also creating a diaspora fund to see how we can leverage from some of the good works and the people and the resources that we have internationally to address some of these socio-economic issues like skills development, because the productivity, what you get for every dollar in terms of productivity from young people is huge. And in my mind, there's no reason why government should not be focusing on them. I take it, for example, if I was sitting at CBN or BOI, and I'm listening to a 55-year-old man. And I'm sorry to say this, I'm nothing, I have no grounds against older people. But if I was sitting at BOI and I had the opportunity to fund, say, a 50-year-old guy who had this great business, in my mind, what I'm solving for is that regardless of how successful this business is, the person who I'm looking at probably has another 10 years of taxable lifespan, versus seeing how I can take the same resources and invest in a young man or woman, and then that same person then creates another 30 to 35 years of taxable income and lifespan for government. So it's just a bit of retweaking how we view these things and understanding the need to prioritize interventions in young people and have those young people propel the economy, thereby creating the tax revenue for government to actually work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mark Okoya. Sincere apologies for the mix-up. Thank you for your contributions. And I really like the points that you brought about the sustainability issues, and also that there is a mismatch in what we are seeing currently. And I like the fact that you spoke to the fact that there's really so much that we can really tap into from the young people in Nigeria, talking about how that can then trickle down to more benefits for the Nigerian economy. I want to now move to Shola. And I know, Shola, you've worked with a lot of young people, especially as the Nigeria country director for Andela. And I want you to specifically speak to tech skill set, and in your wealth of experience and all the initiatives you've been part of, that you've seen young people bring their best to the fore, what really do you think is the missing link why young people are not really at the forefront of driving economic growth in Nigeria?
Thank you, Mrs. Moderator. I think I'm going to join the panelists as well to congratulate the Honorable Minister for Youth, Dr. Jamila Ibrahim. And I must say, I was so excited when I saw that this time around we have a young woman on the board and making policies that will drive and change the way the youths are viewed in Nigeria. It's an honor to be here and to meet Mr. Bright Jaja. I have followed you closely on social media, but I've not had the opportunity to be on a panel with you before. Mr. Michael Koye, good afternoon, and good afternoon to everyone online today. Please permit me to just do a quick recap, because I also took my pen, and that's the good thing about speaking last. You get to get all the amazing points that everybody has talked about, all the expos. And I was taking notes at each speaker was, just talking about what they want to do and youth-driven economy. And I noted a couple of things that this panel had put forward. The Honorable Minister talked about education as a catalyst. I wrote that down. She talked about key youth engagement and the youths having a voice. And then she talked about eventual policies. I'm hoping that that will translate to a government roadmap for the youths. And I'm hoping to also work with you, even though you didn't invite me, in the future. And then Mr. Bright went on to talk about the stakeholder engagement. And I like the fact that he talked about not treating the youth as charity cases, but dealing with it in a more formal sector and empowering the youth formally and understanding the needs. And I think this is one area I'm also going to be talking about, the gap between what the government is proposing and what the private stakeholders are doing and what the need of the market is. Mr. Dr. Okoye eloquently talked about the fact that it's important to have the youths in the room when decisions are being made, and how the startups in the current economy that we're in is driving foreign direct investment and it's empowering the economy. I want to look at it from a different perspective. For me, a youth-driven economy would be to reframe the narrative of how Nigeria is viewed. Nigeria is currently viewed as a very populous nation, a lot of youth population. So I want to reframe the narrative and join this group to reframe the narrative and move us from being a populous nation with a large population of youth to being a nation with youth resources, where every youth is a strategic asset to companies globally and to the local economy. And that is the kind of business we're in. When Andela came into Nigeria a couple of years back, there was no potential for Africa or Nigerian talent. People didn't talk about hiring technologists from Nigeria. It was more of technologists from the Silicon Valley. We came in and identified that the people in Nigeria had the opportunity to do well. They had the brilliance to do well, but they didn't have the opportunities. And so we started training software developers, people that didn't know how to code, trained them as software developers and embedded them in companies all over the world, and they were doing brilliantly, literally showcasing the African talent. And that is what this forum is about, identifying that the youths that we have currently have the ability to be the best. And then reframing the narrative in the way that we move Nigeria from just being a consumer economy to an economy that is producing. We become the African hub, building tech skills in the youth. This is what we're doing as a company, and we hope to continue to do that and partner even with the government to continue to drive this. When people have skills, they solve problems. When they solve problems, they're able to make money and they're able to generate growth and innovation. This forum for me is really exciting because every time we have government policies come on board, many times it's not with the engagement of the stakeholders. So being at this panel now and having this conversation as to how we want to drive the nation forward is something that is super exciting for me. I think I'm going to pause there because I don't want to talk too much. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Shola. Thank you. I like the fact that you spoke to the fact that Nigerian youth, we have it all really in Nigeria, but then how can we then make Nigeria attractive for the young Nigerians that are leaving this country? Because when we want to talk about the youth demography, the brain drain, the fact that when you ask 1 in 5 young Nigerians, they tell you that, oh, if I have the opportunity, I want to leave this country. I want to go to the Honorable Minister now. I know when in your opening statement, you said that it's still fresh, and Mark Okoye also mentioned that you have hit the ground running very early. But I still want you to speak to what are the approaches to really expect, whereby the policies to also expect in the coming months that will really encourage young Nigerians to say, oh, I have heard this and I want to stay back in Nigeria. Opportunities abound, yes, but a lot of young people do not have these opportunities. What really should be the expectation for young Nigerians in the coming months, and also from your desk as the Minister of Youth?
Thank you so much. Still, Madam Moderator, my apologies. I think the next time you take charge of the conversation, you should please reintroduce yourself, because it would be nice to actually know who is moderating us. Well, speaking of the policy direction, as an administration, we hope one of the things that one of the initiatives or one of the ways we hope to support young people is by increasing access to capital. Because I recall Mark Okoye mentioning venture capital and all of that. Mark, I'd say that don't worry, we're coming to every state, and Anambra State is one of those. And having heard you speak very passionately about venture capital, it actually, gives me a lot of hope that when we get to the subnational level with our implementation, that we will be able to, we'll achieve, we'll be able, the success will leapfrog the process. Because already I know that we have capable hands at the subnational level, and that you will be one of our stakeholders. You may not be a commissioner for youth, but okay, sorry. My screen went blank for a second. I'm wondering why. Well, access to capital, and then of course, this will translate to job creation, and we also hope to engage the private sector to, engage in internships, build capacity of young people, and through incentives for private sector as well, we hope that they'll be able to employ as many young people as possible. So this is really just about creating an enabling environment for the private sector to thrive. And in that process, we have more young people being gainfully employed. And we spoke about technical systems and startups attracting foreign direct investment and all of that. Yes, and then and if you look at the most recent, um, well, there's some decisions that the administration has had to make, and we have also in the process reached out to, like you remember very recently, Mr. President and a delegation of entrepreneurs, Nigerian entrepreneurs, were in India to, I'd say, to sell the potential of Nigeria to other investors in that space, and this has a high propensity to attract foreign direct investments, and this is what we hope to achieve. And with such influx into our economy, we are hoping that, of course, like Dr. Ms. Shola Sinubi said, that we need to move from being a consumer economy to being a producer or a manufacturing economy. And we also understand that in order for us to industrialize or to be manufacturers, we must address the power gaps. And this is also one sector that, we hope to focus on. I mean, if you look at the mandate of the Federal Ministry of Youth Development, it's a holistic mandate. And reasons why I would like to, correct an impression or a perception of Marx. These are with my sincere apologies, but you see, hitting the ground running, right, and then making policy statements, they're really two different things. You can be, as an administration, you come on board, you have a bet, you've projected what the situation is like, right? And then when you get into the system with the bureaucrats and all of that we have to deal with, it's a different ball game entirely. So in order to have a win-win situation, and of course, what's the end goal? That we have empowered young Nigerians who are not engaged in harmful practices that will be detrimental to our security, so that you and I can sleep with both eyes closed, right? So these are, I've just been able to, I'm trying so hard not to let the cat out the bag so quickly, because by the time we roll out a blueprint, I can assure you that you'll be wowed, Mr. Okoye. Don't worry. There's no rush, because, we are going to be in this together. And Mrs. Shola, this is also extending an invitation to you as well, because you are actually addressing a problem that is, critical. And I mean, doing it without government, I must commend you. And it is stakeholders like you that we hope to engage with in order to provide solutions. Not like we do not have an idea as a government what the challenges are. We're very aware of what the challenges are that, the Nigerian youth and the economy are faced with, but we do not want to make mistakes by, jumping to, we already made assumptions, you understand, like we've assumed that these are the challenges, but we want to hear from the stakeholders in the field, from the young people at the grassroots. This is one group that we continue to, I wouldn't say ignore, but we don't hear them loud enough, because so many of these people do not even have access to internet, and and we continue to marginalize these groups because we don't hear them. And like in the American terminology, political terminology, that says that they are the silent majority, and I like to refer to them as the at-risk youth. And I believe this is the group that Bright Jaja is very popular with working with, and we hope to also, engage these young people. It is, because when this particular group of at-risk young people, they're easy to express their frustration through crime and other unlawful practices. And we as government, we're coming to say, okay, we understand that going into crime and all of that is an expression of your frustration. We're here to listen to you. What are you good at as an alternative to this thing that you're doing? What are you good at as a person? So it's only when you listen that you know, okay, there's this person, there's this group who are good at this. Even the young people in the Niger Delta, the young people in the Northeast, we have robust plans for them that we're going to be rolling out. But like I said, we don't want to rush to make decisions, and we want to be able to make decisions that will be profitable in the long run. And speaking about sustainability, we also hope we're going to be deploying interventions that are sustainable and not quick fix interventions, because we understand that giving short-term grants and all of that and expecting a different result will not be a wise thing to do as an administration, and especially as a Ministry of Youth Development. If you go through our manifesto, or it says the holistic development, and of course that ensures economic participation of young people. So we know that every geopolitical zone in this country has a commodity or a skill of comparative advantage, or a feature of comparative advantage. It could be the natural resources, it could be the climate. We are very aware of that. And we hope to tap into this and engage young people to be part of the process to drive the economic activities in these geopolitical zones, while creating an enabling environment, addressing power gaps, creating access to market, creating access to finance, and all of that. So, and this, we actually even hope to, cluster young people, because we know that, okay, even if we're going to be giving out this grant, then we need to educate young people on the importance of creating clusters and cooperatives, because that's the only way you can make judicious use of these resources that will make financial sense and make economic sense. And we also hope to build capacity of young people, handhold them to be able to export our commodities, or produce, and even finished goods from the shores of this country. And that will go a long way to stabilize the naira, because this is a matter of urgency. This is something that we must do. So I hope I have been able to do a little justice to your question. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister. My name is Christiana Amodu. I am the moderator for the panel for the Youth-Driven Economic Development. Shola has some contributions for you, ma'am. I will just ask Shola to speak so you respond to the points that she has raised before I move to Bright Charger.
Christina, hi. Can you be clear on what you want Shola to do? I actually saw another Shola on the chat, so I was a bit confused. Is it my Shola, or do you want to bring somebody off from the chat? So what do you want me to speak to specifically, please?
Okay, I actually thought it was your Shola from the chat box. We'll just go over to that later. The comment from Shola, I'll allow the Honorable Minister respond to that comment much later. To all our virtual participants, who would accommodate time for question and answers and contribution from all those joining the panel virtually. I will just move now to Bright Jaja, and I really want you to speak on, just to borrow this clause from the Honorable Minister, what really will be a win-win situation in terms of tapping into the value in Nigeria's informal sector, because like you have mentioned, it is very large and the potential that is really in that sector is endless. How then can we have really a win-win situation for young people that are in that sector? Do you also think moving a good chunk of those in that sector into the formal sector would be the first step?
I think he's muted. Jaja, you might be muted.
Sorry. Thank you very much. So I was saying that I would like to just add a little bit more from what the minister already said. Now, I'd like first of all to talk about the Jackpot syndrome, because we're joking about this. We think it's a joke, right? But if you watch football, I like to use football as a reference because I think a lot of Nigerians watch football, especially young people. You discover that in a team, everybody has their own strength, right? The reason why they'll pay Ronaldo $200 million and they'll pay somebody else probably like 1 million or 500,000 is because of the role that they play. And within this, we need to understand that everybody has a unique special skills, right? And everybody has strength on how far they are willing to go to make sure that that skill become actualized. Now, when you find people who have done amazing things, and we create an environment that does not appreciate or acknowledge such a people, and they finally get an opportunity to step outside to a different location where they express the same skills or execute the same skills, and they get a different kind of response, it is only a fool that would decide to say, oh, I'm just going to go back to where I'm not appreciated. I'm going to use myself as an example. I'm currently not in Nigeria. I'm in the United States. I'm currently in DC, right? And 2 months ago, I was in Nigeria working on a project. We just finished a major production where we've moved our project from just Nigeria to 4 other countries. We are now running Accurate Africa in Togo, Ghana, and the Republic, including Nigeria. We just finished the production where we are trying to see how we can repackage and rebrand skills. I'm going to go back to just track it back a little bit. 2017 was when we started. And the idea was simple. We wanted to change that negative societal perception that creates this stereotypes against trades profession, which discourage young people from engaging, which is one of the biggest problems. And we started with this I Create Skills Festival, where we bring young people from all over the country. We train them through an apprenticeship program, and we bring them together to showcase their skills in the most dynamic way. The way we do this thing, the way if you don't know about I Create Africa, you can just go to YouTube, type I Create Africa, and watch the videos from our projects. The amount of money that we spend to do this project, people think that we're crazy. They're like, why are you spending so much money on these young people? People who are uneducated, people who are living in underserved society communities, people who are ex-militants. Why are you wasting your money on them? Why are you wasting so much money on them? And my answer to that question is, I'm not wasting money, I'm investing money. And the beautiful thing about everything we've done, just to give you guys a statistics, we have been able to empower over 50,000 people directly, and indirectly probably more than 150,000. And I mean directly, I mean these are people who we have trained, matched with jobs. Some of them have become entrepreneurs, and they have gone ahead to be able to start a small business where they now employ more people. The reason why we have 70% of young people employed in the informal sector, I would say they have a huge role to play. Because those are the people that we have empowered and ended up employing people under them. Whether it's a small shoemaker shop that now has 2 apprentices, or a tiler that started, from just tiling one house to now having about 10 apprentices or 10 people working with him, or a plumber or a carpenter. We have been able to create a lot of jobs within the informal sector. But how did we do this? We didn't just do this by just, talking about it. We went in and we worked. We had a strategic plan where, first of all, we identify all of the different trades, highlight all of the opportunities, educate young people on how much money they can make from being a plumber and a tiler instead of sitting at home and doing nothing. 4 years down the line, we spent over 2 billion naira. We empowered over 50,000 people. We have created over 100,000 jobs all over the country, and still we have zero government support. Now ask me how I raised that money. We didn't get grants. Ask me how I raised up to 2 billion. How did we do it? We created, first of all, we understood that for us to be able to work with the private sector, right, we couldn't go and say, oh, please give us money because we're trying to impact young people. We know the private sector will not give us money because everybody's trying to make money. Nobody cares. What did we do? We designed a marketing structure. We know that they have a marketing budget and they want to put their brands out there. What do? We try to see how we can humanize their brand into what we're doing. We created the Create Skills Festival and told them, oh, we'll put your brand logo here. We'll have your logo on the uniforms of the competitors. We'll do this, we'll do that. This is how much we need from your marketing budget. You're not only increasing your brand equity, you're also creating impact. You're also, applying your CSR, where you're able to impact people while you're also creating relevance for your brand. And that's how we're able to raise money every single year. They go to brands, they get their logos here and there, and we use that money to train more young people and expand our programs. We never got grants from one person or from one organization. But this is where passion comes into play. Now, let me just skip down to what I was trying to say when it comes to Jackman syndrome. And then I came to the United States. I'm listed on Forbes Under 30. I was at the event, and then there was an app that was created where they said we should just put what you do. I put what I do on the app, put our videos, put stuff, basically everything I create Africa has done. And the app literally recommended me as one of the top people to meet at the Forbes event. I had over 200 people on my waiting list to meet with me. Now, every conversation, and this is not just regular, these are people who have million-dollar businesses in America. Now, imagine me coming back home after that kind of experience. Imagine me coming back home when I know that where I am here, I'm much more appreciated. More people want to work with me. Literally, in the next couple of days, I have a meeting with the Vice President of the United States. Like, how on earth would I want to come back? But listen, I'm not going anywhere. I'm coming back. I'm just giving you guys a scenario. I'm coming back next week. But I'm just making you guys understand why we need to create structure, first of all, that separates people who have been able to work on their self, work on their skills, have a proven concept. We need to be able to create structure that acknowledge and appreciate them. Because if we don't create an environment that appreciates young people who are innovative, who are geniuses, they would leave. And trust me, when they leave, anytime, when Ronaldo left Man U went down immediately. And that's what's happening. We're losing our LeBron James, we're losing our Ronaldos, we're losing our Messis, we're losing our best hands, our best minds to all these countries because they are much appreciated there and they would rather go to where they're seen and they're appreciated. Now, down to the point, we need to understand that skills development is the only way. It's not a way. It's not one of the ways. It's the only way we can solve Nigeria's unemployment. There's a huge skills gap. Over 65% of employers are saying we don't really have people that can fill these jobs. And we still have a lot of young people that are unemployed, which doesn't make sense. It takes us back to what is the structure that brings out these young people? It's the educational system. How do we make sure that we restructure the educational system to be able to train more young people to be able to acquire the skills that they need to fill these jobs? And so the question is not, should we bring them into the informal sector? The answer is, we should formalize this informal sector. We should create strength, we should use technology, leverage on technology, like we have leverage on technology to be able to formalize the hiring process of contractors and skill professionals in the construction industry. Right now, contractors, real estate developers are able to come to our platform, skillers.ng, and post a job, a project, whether it's 50,000 housing units. We can provide the skill professionals for you. Tilers, plumbers, at scale. If you want 150 tilers to show up on your site tomorrow morning, we've been able to provide that without you having to go from one union to another. You just go to the website, put your information, and we can literally match you with the right skilled people that you need. So what we have to do is not try to move people from the informal sector to the formal sector. We have to find a way, find the structure to formalize this informal sector. This begins by creating more experimental spaces where young people can come in and learn skills and produce. We have to use the Chinese model where they have multiple skills factories where young people can go in there, all the equipment, everything that they need to produce is there. When the people that are able to produce are able to teach people, the young people that want to learn. And with that, we've created an institution. That's how we formalize it when it comes to the training process. And when it comes to employment, we create matching platforms for hairdressers, for makeup artists, where people can go to these platforms, and make an order, and they can match them with the right people who have the right skills to get the job done. That's how we formalize it. And so, so I keep on saying the solution that we need is so simple. It is right in front of us. All we have to do is to create partnership, is to have the government be more open. I have sent letters on letters to Minister of, before this Minister of Youth right now, Minister of Youth and Youth and Sport, Minister of Works and Housing, Minister of Labour, ITF, over and over again for every project, and we get response 4 months after the project is completed. How do you work with a government that is unavailable to access, that's unavailable and unaccessible, right? So I think what we need to do now, especially this new government, is to prioritize, not as a means to give charity to young people, but as an investment. Prioritize investing in young people, but mostly investing in the skills that is in demand. Only 70% of our young people are able to have the skills of the future. Only 17%. And what I would like you to know by getting there, AI is taking a lot of jobs, and more jobs will be taken. We need to start preparing our young people for that future. If not, there's going to be a problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Bright Jaja. And we are looking forward to having you come back to Nigeria. Like you have said, we need to retain talent in Nigeria. I will just move now to Shola. Shola, he hammered a lot on skill set development. And I really want you to speak to how we can look at the education system in Nigeria and see if probably there is a need to now be more skill focused in the curriculum development. And I also want you to speak to the kind of young people you have met. I know they have talked to you about, oh, I want to leave the country. What retention strategies do you think we need to start looking at as a country?
Got it. Thank you. I like Madam Moderator, but I will call you Christina. So Bright said something that really resonated very strongly with me. He talked about skills and de-emphasizing this whole idea of universities, university degrees as just the only way to make a difference. And I really agree with him. When we hire, for instance, and we're looking at technologists or talents to work with us, we are not focused on the universities they come from or what degrees they have, whether they have any understanding of computer science. We're more focused on the technical skills, the tech stacks that they're coming with, whether they have an understanding of the coding, the programs we want them to learn, whether the programs they know is relevant to our market and our clients. So this is a good time to disabuse that view that you either have to, for you to make it, you have to have gone to the 4 walls of a university. I went to the university, I would advocate it, but I agree with Bright that is not the only means of making a difference and for empowering youth. So let me just level set with that. Now on skill set, let me talk about the people I have met. Now the typical Nigerian really wants to live in a safe environment, wants to earn a competitive income, wants to, be in a sector that is appreciated and wants to add value and make an impact. When we look to higher skills and we're looking at skill development, we're looking at people that are just willing to come in to work with us, people that are willing to learn. And so we have platforms wherein they come in. When they come in, we assess them to see what level of skills they have, whether they have ever coded before, whether they know anything about any program, whether they know about AI or machine automation or React. And then we put them in learning cohorts. On every year, on an annual basis, we partner with 2 partners. Usually it's either Meta or Google with GADS. It could be Goldman Sachs. It could be, a lot of these major tech companies. So we partner with them, and we also partner with curriculum, partners that write the programs. When these engineers or these talents come in, they come in and start learning, so they can learn on their own. There are programs they can download. They can go on our CodeWall website to learn and develop skills themselves. Then we also have peer-to-peer mentoring. And again, this is without government funding. This is totally free. So the first thing we are looking at is the passion to say, I want to do this, I want to make a difference, I want to earn a competitive income. And so that's what we look at. They come in, they start coding. Then we look at improving and upskilling on what they are learning. I think in the last 1 month, we just graduated about 1,300 React program learners that have completed the certification. So we have 2 pathways that you can come in through. You either come in and you are learning, or you go on the certification pathway. Now, going to the education sector, and I know that the Honorable Minister mentioned this, this is the foundation. I think we should begin to look at a situation where everyone in Nigeria, every young person, would at least come out with a school leaving certificate. I think that is the basic to just level set. And on that, you can build. So everyone has minimum maths, basic understanding of speaking English and writing English, some knowledge of sciences and humanities at the secondary level. Then you can start building skills. And someone like Bright will testify that when people have at least the rudimentary secondary education, it is easier for them to acquire and build on their skill. It's easier for them to fit into the market and to be able to translate the skills into something they can market and make money from. So let's go back there to the secondary school level. And ensure that on that level, everyone, whether from the secondary schools in the city to the secondary school in the Potiskum where I was born, everybody there comes out with the basic education, which is your secondary school living education. Technological skills being introduced very early is also something very relevant. From primary level, let's start introducing skills, trades in primary school, trades in secondary school. I remember when I was in secondary school, we had technical drawing and all these trade things that you could do. I don't know whether we have that now. So it's good that we start going back to reintroduce that. And I know Brad said something again that I noted. He referred to China and talked about people, youths going into areas that and developing their skills. You know, the government setting different forums, forum for trade, forum for production, forum for technology. I think we need to go there as well. In the last couple of weeks, I met 2 amazing young ladies in Kenya. They run a company called Tawi. They identified that there was a problem between moving goods from the farms to the end users because the middlemen will come in and make the big profit from there. They were able to use technology, and that is where agri technology comes in, to set up a platform where they're able to move foods fresh from the market directly to the kitchens and to the restaurants. That is the way you do, and the money is coming into the economy. So for me, key things I want to emphasize here is education, that basic education. 2, de-emphasizing the university degrees. And 3, for us, what we look at is the passion, the willingness to come into the system. The opportunities we have created for people to learn how to code is free. They would come in, they would code, and once they learn and they're certified, they can come into the pipeline and work with us. Many of them have gone up to start their own startups. And this for me is what tech skills particularly do. It creates that digital environment and makes the country as a whole globally competitive. And that's where we need to get to. Bright said something about the future. The future is here. We need to enable the youth in a way that they're able to compete in the job space in the future. AI is driving everything, machine annotation. And look, the truth about it is that from my own experience, I know that the Honorable Minister talked about going to India. The market is actually shifting from India because companies using India as the back end for their customer service, for their ticketing services, they're looking to move to cheaper economies and cheaper countries. And Nigeria is key among those countries they want to move to. Companies like Hugo Tech is already doing something similar in Nigeria, where they are like the back end and the customer support service for companies like Walmart in the US. So we need to begin to look at investing in these tech skills for the youth, along with other skills that they are developing, because it is driving the economy. It is driving where we are going to as a nation. And so that is what we should look at doing. If not, in the next 5 years, and like Bright said, why would I want to come back? We would see that we're not being relevant. So it's important as a nation that we protect the future of our economy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shola. Thank you for that very robust thought on how we really need to go back to the books, especially for the education sector in Nigeria. I want to bring in Mr. Mark now into the conversation. I am being told we have almost close to 10 minutes now to draw the curtains on this session. I want you now to specifically speak to public-private partnership, because I know as the CEO of the Anambra State Investment Promotion and Protection Agency, you really have been on the table where these discussions have happened. What really should be at the center when we're talking about public-private partnership, bringing the public sector, the private sector to a table to have conversations that will bring actionable solutions that really will help the youth drive economic development in the country?
No, thank you very much, Christian, and also the panels, the other panelists, and their great contributions thus far. I would say the organization I serve in now is it's not necessarily youth focused as the case may be. I mean, I'm driving investments for Anambra State and managing the state's investment portfolio, and also creating a platform for public-private partnerships, but more from an infrastructure financing standpoint. But however, in my past life, I've been commissioner for economic planning for 7 years in the state, where I had to do quite a lot of policy formulation around this. But perhaps what I can do is to speak to how the state government is perhaps partnering with the private sector on issues around youth empowerment and youth development, as the case may be. So I think we have really three main areas. You have your Ministry of Youth that is doing interventions for young people, creating programs, working with Ministry of Education to refurbish vocational schools, invest in boarding facilities, ensure that we're not always importing masons from other neighboring countries, that we have those skill sets in Anambra State, right? So there's quite an ambitious program to train roughly around 20,000 of those. I believe we've done about 7,000 of those thus far in the last 16 months. How do we scale? How do we ensure it's sustainable? There's always a role for public-private partnerships. And we've actually stretched that further to call it public-private community partnerships. Because in Anambra, there's a very strong town union / community feel where they typically raise money for different interventions. They raise money to build a church. They raise money for a funeral. They raise money for water schemes within their localities. So why can't we channel this sort of resources and bring that back to skills development for young people and get people to adopt schools that then go on to transfer skills and develop skills of young people. Then on the tech side, we have the Office for Innovation and Business Incubation, run by a young lady called Chinwell Kohli. She's a special advisor to the governor. So very quickly, what we did was to put in place an innovation hub right in the center of Oka that has capacity to train roughly around 350 to 400 young people. But the state's agenda is to do 10,000 of those in terms of coding and all of the major tech skills, and then create opportunities to support them from a funding standpoint. So how are we doing that? For me, where you need to work with the private sector, and that's really what we are doing on the sustainability aspect. We have a capacity that only trains 300, 400. So someone says that that's a drop in the ocean. But what that has done in the last 2 months, 3 months, people like the Chiscos of this world, they're from Anambra. People like the Coast Charities of this world, they're from Anambra. When they're in town, most of them come and invited for a session or a meeting at that innovation hub. And automatically, when they see the energy, they see the young people being given skills. The question that they're asking is, how can I replicate the same thing in my own village or in my own community? So as we speak, there's another 2 or 3 innovation hubs being built that are funded purely by private sector and will be run by these sort of under this sort of model, where the state gives some sort of a framework or blueprint, and then they go ahead and raise the funding and then impact. Because as much as possible, we don't want everybody coming and sort of centralizing themselves in Oka. We want innovation hubs in all the different parts of Anambra State, in all the different communities. So these are some of the things I think that we could all sort of take a page from. Then while I was commissioner, you all must know about the Tony Elumelu Foundation and the work he's done in terms of raising funding and impacting young people, funding and providing mentorship, support for their startups. So we partnered with them because governments always, there's this whole idea around big government. A government wants to do everything. The government wants to finance everything. They want to run all the different facets and phases of these sort of programs. But sustainability, the quality of what is being taught, and obviously from the business side, ensuring that these things make sense and will deliver a return on investment. Government administration and government don't have the necessary skill set to drive this. So in the past, we were always sort of partnering with, every time there was a new cohort at the TOE Foundation, we would always sort of partner with them, give funding for an extra 50 to 60 slots, to ensure that Anambra, a number of these kids are still going through this these programs. The last point I did want to touch on is what we're doing around sporting infrastructure. There's 179 communities in the state, and we have a model for a basketball court, a football court, and a viewing center, as the case may be. Everyone thinks through, our diaspora that is out there, and the $20 billion of diaspora remittances that constantly come back. But we forget that in addition to that, there's the footballers who are also playing in the biggest leagues. And there's also the small footballers, the people who only had, the opportunity to play in Sweden in a very small league. But when you look at the numbers, say someone is playing in a small league in Europe and is earning, say, $3,000 a week or every 2 weeks as his pay, the equivalent of that is roughly 3.6 million naira every 2 weeks. So you're saying that with the right sporting infrastructure across the nation, we can ensure that our kids from as early as 5, 6 have a park, have a field to go and hone their skills, get better, such that by the time they're 12, 13, the foreign clubs, the local clubs can also have a steady pipeline of talent. The reason why Germany and Spain are so amazing at football today is all as a result of planning and the neighborhood 5-a-side and 7-a-side sporting infrastructure that was put in those countries in the late 90s. They saw that they were appalling at football and had to go back and go and rewrite it completely, and then put in a blueprint to ensure that they have a sustainable pipeline of talent that will continue to feed them. So I think these are some of the things that we must explore. The last point I wanted to make also is, and I saw that the minister, I don't know if she's still here, but I saw that the honorable minister spoke to it, about going to the different regions and speaking to the stakeholders to identify different programs and getting their buy-in. I think with people like her, it presents us the opportunity to really be impactful and be tailored in the way we create these programs. What am I saying? In Anambra State, we have the lowest unemployment in the country, as at figures from the Bureau of Statistics, somewhere between 15 to 16%.
Hello, Mark. I don't know if you can hear me. The time is ringing in my ears, so I will.
Okay.
Yes.
No, I'm wrapping up.
Okay, go ahead, please. Just land on your last thought.
There's the apprenticeship scheme where you go through all the different markets in Anambra in the southeast. People take on young people from as early as 14, 15, some of them maybe 18, and you work with them for 2-3 years. And automatically that person who's taking you on is also supposed to provide funding for you to go ahead and start your own trading business, as the case may be. So all I was saying is that as we sit at national and start to fashion out these policies, it should not be one size fits all. We should look at what has worked in different regions, what has worked in different states, and see how we can provide support to those schemes, formalize them, and fund them and then ensure it's more impactful. That's the only way we guarantee sustainability. Thank you very much, Christiana.
Thank you so much, Mark Okoye, there speaking to how we can guarantee sustainability and how the public and private sectors can come together to really help the youth drive economic development in Nigeria. So we just have 3 minutes to draw the curtains on this session. I will just go round our panelists. Let's just have your closing thoughts. In 30 seconds, each panelist will just take 25 seconds thereabout. Let's just have your closing thoughts. I would begin with Shola. What's your closing thought for us today?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I love that word. For me, I hope this will not be the end, that we'll keep having this engagement with both the government and the key stakeholders, because we understand where we want the government to support us. We know where the pain points are, and we have initiatives already on ground that we feel that the government can partner with. I hope this will be the beginning of, action points, not just talking, but being able to write out action points and have a roadmap as to how we want to drive the economy by empowering the youth. Thank you.
Jaja?
I think Shola said everything I was going to say. We need to take this out of the conversation. We talk a lot in Nigeria. We need to move into action. Like you said, there are organizations that have already, perfected this concept. They know what works. All they need is to scale. The government should involve, should connect these organizations and partner with them to make this happen. Organizations like the Future Awards, they have over the years identified extraordinary young people. Get them on board. Let them give you the data of these young people doing extraordinary things. See how you can identify all of their different ideas and their businesses and their models and see how we can scale it. But Nigeria is at the point where we cannot negotiate the future of our young people. We need to be deliberate. We need to take deliberate actions to make sure that our young people are empowered with the skills that will lead to employment, not just for now, but also in the future. Thank you.
Mark, let's have your closing thoughts.
Just to sort of latch on to what my co-panelists have said, I think, first of all, I'd like to thank you guys for organizing this, but I also see an opportunity for us to sort of take advantage on and latch onto it. I was very glad that the president was there to declare it open and give a powerful 15, 16-minute speech. So what that already tells me, he set the tone that under his own administration, there's going to be a close working relationship between the executive, who are the actors, and also thought groups like the NESG, who support in policy creation and formulation and what have you. So the last bit, which I think is one area that we've struggled with these sort of platforms and opportunities in the past, is the execution and the monitoring of that execution. So I'm guessing that on the back of this, there'll be a very strong execution framework and monitoring and evaluation framework that takes all the very salient points and comments that have been made and contributions that have been made on this panel and all the other panels, and ensures that we are policing it and monitoring and supervising the implementation, such that in a year, when we come around, and by that time, I believe some of us here will be in the audience and not speaking, we can see that discussions that were had are actually being put to use and being implemented.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mark. Next time I'll give you 50 seconds. Don't worry. Thank you to all that have taken our time to join this panel on youth-driven economic development. The best time to do this was before now, but the next best time to do it is now. Thank you, Bright Jaja, CEO and founder of iCreate Africa. Thank you, Mark Okoye, the MD CEO, Anambra State Investment Promotion and Protection Agency. Thank you, Shola Otinubu, Nigeria Country Director, Andela, and also the Honorable Minister of Youth, join us, Dr. Jamila Ibrahim. Thank you. We hope all the action points from here really proceed and begin to make changes, and the youth take the front seat as drivers of the economy. I am Christiana Amodu. Thank you all for joining.
Thank you, Christiana. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Christiana. Bye-bye.